What's going on? All right. So I am so I just want to get started so we can stay on time. So guys, like I mentioned, these calls will take place every Wednesday on usually it will be on YouTube Live, where you'll be able to ask questions. We invite our clients, our also credit community just to join on and just have these conversations. Today we're going to focus on a good credit foundation. What does that mean? I know a lot of people have asked, some of my clients, we talk about this all the time in our client coaching calls, what is a good credit foundation and why is that important? So I know I've been talking. Guys, for those who don't know me, I'm Erica. I'm one of the founders of Alto Credit. I'm also a credit advisor. So if you are a client of ours and you probably have spoken to me, hello. And Amos?
Yes, my name is Amos. I am also an owner and advisor. So if you guys have spoken to me, now you get to put the face to the voice, which is exciting. So, and I actually do some live video calls with my clients too. So some of them have already had a chance to meet me, which is exciting.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, we want to get started on just talking about what is a good credit foundation. One of the biggest things we've seen recently is a lot of clients questioning, why are they not getting approved when they have a certain score, right? So if a client tells you, Amos, I have a credit score of 650 or 700, like they told me my credit score needed to be a 650 to get this specific loan, and I have the 650, but I'm not getting approved still. What are some things first of all, what causes that, and how we overcome those things?
The most important thing that I think that I really see with people when it comes to their credit is, and not getting approved, is a lot of times people get fixated on the score, right? Where the number has to be generated from somewhere, right? The place you have to focus a lot of your energy is the contents that makes up that number.
Mm-hmm.
And that's on the actual credit report. Are there late payments? Are there charge-off accounts? Are there too many inquiries? Every lender and institution has their own lending criteria. Like they have their own risk management. And most of the time, it's all done computerized. So the computer scans through your credit report and it's going to give you an approval or denial. But the information that is making that decision on, it's all on the credit report. So I think that's the most important thing for people to understand is it's not just the score. You can have a 700 credit score with a credit card. You're 21 years old, you're in college, you open up one credit card, you use it, pay it. Mommy and daddy add you onto an authorized user, you hit 700. You can't use that same score to get ideal lending for a $400,000 house. All you have is your credit card, right? And they know that. So the scoring algorithm is designed to know whether or not you're a high-risk borrower or a low-risk borrower. And once it takes that information, aggregates it, it's going to take it from the credit bureaus to a company called FICO. FICO is not the credit reporting agencies, two different companies. FICO just takes the data from the credit reporting agencies, spits it through their scoring algorithm, and then gives you a number that's going to assess your likelihood of you either paying something on time or not paying something on time. You see what I'm saying?
Yes. So one thing is very important, guys. And now that Amos is talking about FICO, I want you guys to understand FICO is not meant for the consumer. So I know we hear the word FICO get thrown around a lot when you speak to a lender. You see it on different websites, blog sites. It's because we're familiar with that, because that's usually what is used as a scoring model, right? So that's a scoring model. It's really a company that really assesses risk for businesses, right? That like when you go to a mortgage company, they want to assess the risk of lending you that $400,000 house, that mortgage for that $400,000 house, right? They're trying to assess that risk. If you are not, they're not there to help you. They're there to assess the risk for the business, right? Every industry has different scoring models. There are certain industries that have score specifics, right? that they have a specific score that is generated based off of the information that the credit bureaus are giving them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So this concept of, hey, you know, my FICO score is this. You can get, if you have one number and that's your FICO score, and I mean like one number for each bureau, then that's still not all of your FICO scores. There's tons of FICO scores, right? Yeah. And you can have a different FICO score for an auto loan than you do for a house. Yeah. You can have a different FICO model score if they use FICO for a personal loan, a business loan, different FICO score, right? There's also different FICO scores depending on the bureau, right? Because not all information that you have on your credit report is reporting on all three bureaus, right? So when you look at it, and guys, don't hesitate to put questions here. We're gonna speak about a strong credit foundation, but we want you guys to drop those questions.
Drop your questions. We're happy to answer them.
Yeah. So, you know, it's very important that we understand how it works, because, you know, even recently, I was reading, you know, I love to read these articles, and they were saying that, you know, 44% of Gen Zers don't know where their credit is. They have no clue. Like, we from the millennial age, I'm assuming, we understand that there's credit, right? But we still don't have the full knowledge of what that means, right? So it's important that we have this knowledge so we can pass it down. So Amos, tell me a little bit about your experiences, like when people talk about, you know, Credit Karma, and like I saw my Credit Karma score was 650 or 700, and you're telling me my credit score is 480. What does that mean?
Yeah, so understand this, right? When you're looking at your credit in Credit Karma, you're going to get a Vantage 3.0 score, which is a credit score for mainly educational purposes. If you're going to sign up for your bank credit journey, a lot of these places, they're giving you the Advantage because it's significantly less and it's produced by the credit reporting agencies themselves. If you go to FICO, that's the actual score that lenders use. 95, I believe it is, 95% of all lenders are using FICO. So if you're looking at your Credit Karma score, it may have one number, but you go to the mortgage company, you're going to have a different number. You leave the bank and you go to get a car, you're going to have a different number. You leave the car, you go get a credit card, you're going to have a different number. So it's hard to gauge specifically what the number is going to be if you're looking at your Credit Karma, all right? Credit Karma is a tool. Number one, Credit Karma is a marketing website. They have a great marketing campaign. Every time you click one of those links, they're getting paid. Every time you check to see if you get auto loans, they're going to get paid. But Credit Karma is not going to give you, they're doing how many hundreds of millions of dollars all on ads, right? Every time your credit score changes, they're going to send you a ping. Bing, your credit score changed. Mm-hmm. Why? Because they want you to go back onto the app. Every time you go onto the app, think about what you're sharing. Number one, you're interacting with a specific ad that just went out. Number two, you're accessing it in a certain location so they know where you are. They have your credit report, so they know your debt. They know your liabilities. They know what type of car you drive. They have all that information. And then they also know, a lot of times the people putting in, when they were doing those taxes and stuff, you're putting your actual finances. When you do an application and you share all that information to them, what do you think they're going to do? They can narrow and hone down specific advertising for you, the consumer. And every time you click, they get to share that information. And it's just free information you're giving them, right? So they're taking that information and they're able to re-give you, I don't think they sell your data, but they use that to get the information in and get you clicking on those credit cards. Oh, look, check out this credit card. You're going to get approved. Credit card. Every time you hit that, they're getting money. So that's important.
Well, I don't even think they even need to sell your credit or your credit mark. They don't have to sell your credit information, because a lot of them, They're also owned by Intuit. I just want to make sure I'm double checking that here, guys, but because I never want to misspeak. But they are owned by Intuit, which a lot of you guys already use in other capacities. So make sure, right? If you're using Intuit, right, and it's the same company, that's why they're so accurate. They don't need to buy your information from somebody else. Yeah. Right? Everyone's like, oh well, I don't understand how are they so accurate? They may have some accuracy, right? They are, but it's because they just know you. It's like they're targeting. And I know we all are getting targeted on Instagram. If you type something in, or sometimes when you talk about
something, and then all of a sudden it shows up on your feed, that just drives me.
And we're like, wow, how did they know? It's the same thing, right, guys? Like, Credit Karma is a great tool. I don't take it away from them because it just has the ability to personalize things because it's getting to know you from different avenues because they own different companies and they're able to cross-use that information. But, you know, at the end of the day, right, that's not what your lenders are using. That's not, your lenders have different ways to make sure that you have a strong profile. So how do we make sure, what is a strong profile? What does that look like? What do we need to have a strong credit profile in this?
Well, let me answer one question. Should I cancel my Credit Karma? No. Credit Karma you can keep active because you're sharing much of your data anyway, right? So the fear of the data exchange, that's not my major concern. Credit Karma as a free tool, just understand the advantages and disadvantages of Credit Karma, all right? And also having Credit Karma in my scope when I'm working on credit, it gives you updates on a regular basis. So I can know if, for instance, credit collection companies are increasing balances or charge-off accounts are increasing balances because they kind of snitch. They tell you, hey, this account went up in balance. And if you know that account shouldn't be going up, if it's a collections or if it's already a charge-off account, there's something for you to look a little further into because you may have a violation on the credit report. So I wouldn't say cancel it, but just understand always they're two different things. All right. Your FICO is different than what Credit Karma can do for you. So use them for what they're good at and don't for what they're not. Your question. So what is the good credit mix, right? A good credit mix, I would say, number one is your credit is broken up into 5 components. The largest component, which is your payment history, that's you paying stuff on time every single month, is worth 35% of your credit score. That's a huge chunk. The second component, which is the second largest component, is your utilization. That's how much of your credit cards you're using. So just having a credit card and paying it on time every single month and keeping the balances low is 65% of your credit. All right. If you have that credit card for a long time, that's another 15%. So we're at 80% of your whole credit score by having credit cards, paying them on time, and letting them age and get older. That's 80% of your score. All right. The next 2 components are 10% each, which is new inquiries and new accounts. And that's when you're checking your credit. On a hard inquiry, you do see your score drop typically. And that's the bucket that you're affecting. And then the next 10% bucket is going to be your mix. You want to show that, hey, I'm not only good at only paying student loans, but I can pay student loans, I can pay car loans, I can pay a mortgage, I can pay credit cards, I can pay charge cards. Like all those different categories help you. And that's a real good idea of the mix that you have to target when you're trying to build your credit score. I have a client, and I just did a review with him. He had 14 years of history, and he had 8 positive accounts open. All right. One of his scores hit the 800 mark while we're working on his credit. So he had 14 years of history. So that's the longevity that he has. And every month, on-time payment, on-time payment, on-time payment. That 35% is on steroids. All right. And that's what is bringing your credit score. When people say, hey, I want to have an 800 credit score. Well, let's find out, what does your profile look like? You're not going to have an 800 credit score with 6 years of credit history or 4 years of credit history. You haven't been there long enough, right? And another way that I kind of break it down from clients is It's a resume. Think about it. You want to be the CEO of a company, you have to have longevity of positive accomplishments in your job in order for you to even apply for that position, right? You want to be a manager, you want to work your way up the ladder. It's the same exact concept, nothing different. Lenders are not going to give you money if you haven't shown that you're responsible with credit card number one, credit card number two, your auto loan number one, this one paid off number two. They care about those small details, and each one layers up and they give you a good credit profile. All right. So understand this: 5 components: 35% payment history, 30% utilization, how much you want to keep that under 30%, length of history, how long you've been having credit, your 10%, which is going to be your credit mix, and then your inquiries. That right there is what you understand, and that can help you boost your credit because now you know which one you need the most help in.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Can I only get unsecured cards with bad credit? Can I only get unsecured cards? So unsecured cards with bad credit. So secure cards and unsecured. So I don't know if you meant unsecured or you meant secured. So secure cards are cards that you have to put a deposit. You have to pay to play. If you have to pay to play, right? I always say this. It depends on where you're at. Everyone's credit is completely different. Everyone's credit situation is completely different. You can have things on your credit. If you know, some of us have started building credit when we were like 18 years old and took out a whole bunch of student loans. And that was the first form of credit that we found out about, okay? Some of us, that was the situation. Some people didn't open up their first credit card until they were like 25, 30 years old. Some people started building credit at 30. Some people still haven't started building credit. You know, there are people that never looked at their credit, right? So it all depends on where you're at in your credit journey. Now, if you have bad credit is very different than having no credit. And I'm going to tell you why. When you have bad credit, that means that you have messed up. Sometime in the past, there's something that went wrong. You know, you went left when you were supposed to go right? So that's really what it comes down to, right? Now, you don't always have to start with secured credit. Secured credit is usually when you are really in a situation where you, like Amos says, have to prove yourself. You have to start with the bottom cards. And a lot of these cards now are becoming a little bit more competitive because there's so many players in the game of like secure credit. And there's so many players in like, you know, bad credit cards. A lot of people get upset when they have to open up a credit card and the interest rate is like 28%. And they're like, why do I have to pay 28% on a credit card? Well, you have to pay to play, right? Because that credit is no longer. I always give this as an example. If you've had a client coaching call with me, you've asked me this question, you know, right? I always tell clients, if I ask Amos, if one of you guys were the bank, you guys lend money, and I paid you late. I paid you, but I paid you late. And Amos comes to you and says, hey, Erica wants to ask me to borrow $1,000. Should I give it to her? What are you guys gonna say? You're gonna say, yeah, she pays, right? But she don't pay on time, right? Why are you guys gonna tell me that? Why are you gonna tell him that? You shouldn't tell him that. That's exactly what you guys expect, right? So you gotta pay to play, you gotta prove yourself. So sometimes you gotta get that secure card just to get started. Sometimes you gotta get that card that has the 28-30% interest rate to get started, right? But if you show that you pay on time, after about 6 months, if you're paying, you're cleaning up your credit, you're bringing down your utilization, all those talking points that Amos talked about, you should be able to start leveraging those cards to be able to apply for other credit. Now, does that mean you're going to get a tier A or tier 1 card, however you guys know it? Big cards like Amex, most people want Chase, the big players, right? Does that mean you're going to get the next card? No. You may need to open another level card, right? You may need to open that store card. You may need to open that, you know, that small credit union bank card. Usually those credit union bank cards, don't sleep on them. If you guys have that, I know most of my followers are from the tri-state area. If you guys have MCU or you have one of those credit unions, they tend to have the best cards in
MCU
that
is good
sense of
until you
place
mess
to
up.
start. Huh?
MCU is great until you mess up. You got to see how
Until
they
you
get.
mess up.
They're
They
emotional.
don't let one go.
That's an emotional good bank. Yeah.
And then you work your way up to having, you know, those tier 1 cards. A lot of our clients will tell you they start getting approved, and once they start getting approved, they don't want the card, right? Like they're like, I'm not paying that annual fee. But that's to answer that.
I like Capital One. I love
I
Capital
love
One card. That's I see a lot of my clients as they're going through the repair process. Capital One is usually one of the first banks to start really marketing. And Capital One is a great lending bank. There's banks that are great for investments, like a Chase Bank. That's an investment bank. They house 200 of the world's wealthiest family. Okay, they're not in the business to give you money and take risk. They don't take risk. So to build credit, I want to go to a Chase. I will go to a Capital One bank, because usually they'll tell you, you pay your bill on time and be responsible. You cannot mess up during this trial period. But usually after 7 to 9 months, you'll see that they're going to review your account. A lot of times it's automatically. And you'll come in one day and boom, you got another $1,000 added on there. You go from $750 to $1,500 to $3,000 to $4,500 pretty quickly, right? So I would say that's one of my go-tos. Discover is another great one.
Discover.
For major banks.
Can what's the top 3? The top 3 for me, it all depends, right? Each card, what credit card is a good card to go with. So I'm going to tell you guys something. Each card has its advantages, even the top tier cards. Like it depends on what you're using the card for. To say which one is my top 3 to start building credit, like Amos said, Capital One, Discover's pretty good. And they have a good secure credit card as well.
I want to just say, just be sure. I know we're mentioning the major banks, but just because you have you're getting a secure card with the bank doesn't mean the bank will approve you. Okay, we have seen it. We both used to work at Wells Fargo. All right, clients will come in to build credit. And even with a bad credit score, low credit score, they will go and apply for a credit card. And there's chances that they'll still get declined, even though they put up their own money. So it depends how severe the credit scenario is. If it's really needs a lot of work and you're starting from a very struggling point, I would say some of the other ones. Erica knows them great, like the Credit Strongs and these, because a lot. They're going to guarantee
popular now. Yeah. I know a lot of people, self-lender gives you the reverse loan, right? So the reverse loan is kind of like, it's a secure loan. You're paying the loan off, and then at the end of the loan, they give you the money, which I like, because I find that it's a good safety net. It's a good, you know, savings account, I would say, but it's rewarding your credit, and it goes usually on all 3 bureaus. Mm-hmm. The extra card is very popular. It became very popular on Instagram. Just really quick, I know we have 6 minutes left. We're going to do a hard stop at 6:30. So if you guys have any other questions, I am going to read some more off, and we're going to answer them. Let me just hear. Okay. No canceling your credit card, Melo. What credit card? I learned with you guys that I should pay my balance before my statement date, because that's when it's reported. Yes. So guys, the report date and your statement date, though, is 2 different dates. I want you guys to know that, right? How sometimes you'll go into your credit report and see that you're like, but I don't owe that much. I just made a payment. Why haven't it reflected on my credit report? The reason is they have an actual reporting date internally in which they actually screenshot the credit report of what your balance is at that time, and they send that off to the credit bureaus. So if you don't pay your balance down before their reporting date, you'll still see that balance from into next month. Yeah. And that's why you may say, oh, well, I just paid that. I don't know why that's still reporting that way. It's that you can call these companies. A lot of the times you still have to go up the ladder or up the chain to find out what is your reporting date. But you can get it. So if you guys want to be very detailed, like some people I know,
I have my report dates on my Google Calendar, so I know what day each credit card report is.
He calls them. So you can get them. So if they tell you no, let them know the credit even say you can get it.
Yeah.
Yes, I have the bank and the secure card. I love them. Yes, MCU is great. Just make sure you don't mess up with them. They are non-forgiving.
Great lending bank, but they are emotional.
What happens? What happens if your card is restricted? Well, that's a good one.
Why is it restricted? It depends on why. If it's restricted because of lates or maybe overutilization, if you've used too much of the card, every bank has their own, and most of the time it's computerized, right? Most of the banks have their own mitigation department, and basically they want to protect themselves. So since they don't know every client one-on-one, they're going to say, yeah, I'm sure you're a great person, but my computer does all this work for me. Their AI does the work for them. If there's something that's off that you have done that they're not comfortable with, or the computer is not comfortable with, there's a chance that they may freeze it until you either bring the balance back down, right? Or even have that conversation with them. Talk to them. Hey, my car is frozen. What's going on? And they'll tell you specifically why. Why is it frozen, right? Usually it's something that spooked them that they want to resolve before they give you access to more money, right? That's typically it. Usually just a phone call.
And also if, they see that there's certain, like Amos mentioned, there's something that spooked them, usually they have a lot of data coming from different places. They can kind of tell when you're almost maxed out with things, and that can create many issues. I want to answer one of our questions from one of our own, Mr. Credit Repair. If I have fresh credit, I just started trying to use my credit, why don't I get approved? So if you have no credit, you have fresh credit, right? What it could possibly mean is that you don't have a credit history, right? It's even for clients that have one or two negative items on their credit report. Sometimes they don't even have a credit score. So if you see that, like, you can have a blank on one of your scores, sometimes, not all times, there are different reasons why that may be, but sometimes it's because you don't have enough information reporting to that bureau. That credit bureau agency cannot, based off of the algorithm, remember, it's a math computation. It cannot generate a score. So if you go to a lender, they may reject you because you don't have enough credit, right? You see, there's a thing. A lot of people don't know you need to use credit in order for it to work. You cannot build credit if you don't use your credit. It's no way, no how, right? People that don't use their credit, they'll be like, I'm scared of credit. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
So it's 6:29, guys.
There's one more. I think there's one.
I just want to say really quick. So Friday we're going to have another one of these. We're going to be doing these 2 times a week. One on Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern time, and we're going to be doing it at 12 p.m. Eastern time on Friday. Okay. They will be live. It will be an opportunity for you guys to ask all questions. If you guys have any questions, if you are a client of ours, you will get the broadcast from the app, and then you would also get an email as well. Friday, we're going to be covering budgeting. So if you're interested in knowing more about budgeting tips, this is where to get it. Yeah, Amos.
Yeah, that's exciting. So now we want to keep it half an hour. I know if we didn't get to everybody's question, send me a DM, right? Follow me, send me a DM. I'm always happy to answer them for you. All right. Especially if you want to do you want us to bring up maybe one of the questions that you have on one of our lives. We'll do that as well. All right. It's very conversational, very informative. We want to narrow down and target as many questions and concerns that you guys have out there. We're going to be the #1 source for you.
Awesome. Amos, I see that we didn't get to, can you get a repo off your credit? If you could do a video on that. We need a video from the credit maven on
video on repo. Yeah, there's a process that they have to follow in order to successfully repo. But then again, after the repossession happens, you also want to make sure the paperwork that's filed is 100% accurate So if you get a letter and they sell it in auction, you want to make sure that that's adjusted appropriately. We have clients that they have sold the car and they never adjusted the balance appropriately. And you also want to look at the trade line history, all the months that are on there, make sure everything is complete and accurate. That's just another way. So there's different ways to get repos off. Again, nothing is guaranteed when it comes to credit reporting. But if you're going to work on your credit or work on removing stuff, you want to do the three things. Make sure the account is 100% accurate. You want to make sure the account is 100% complete, and make sure that the information is verifiable. If they can't satisfy all three of those, the account cannot remain in your credit report. Or else they have a violation. So hope that's a question, guys. Thank you so much for joining, everybody. I'm excited.
Bye, guys.
Look forward to hearing from you guys again.